Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast which we disassemble a film from the Marvel Cinematic Universe into 1-minute segments and then examine it in obsessive and occasionally hilarious detail. I'm Kyle Olson from the Swashbuckling Ladies Debate Society podcast.
Hey, and I'm Rob Cabasco. And Kyle?
Yes, sir.
You know, there are some things you would think government is boring, right? You would think that you don't want to see how the sausage is made because there's a lot of sausage involved. And, but you know what? In the last, several decades, we get to see things that you wouldn't normally ever think you'd ever get to see. One of them would be on February 26th, 2014. This is when Seth Rogen, yes, the actor, gave an opening statement to the Senate Subcommittee on Labor, Health and Human Services, Education, and related agencies. And Seth basically was there to talk about Alzheimer's, funding for Alzheimer's research. But of course, he made it very funny. There were some references to some of the movies he's been in. I think this is, as it was noted by, I believe, Senator Tom Harkin, this was probably the once and only time that the words "knocked up" were entered into the Senate record from a meeting. I mean, ridiculousness, right? And I think I can say that. So this was in that. And, you know, you could think back, and especially in the last maybe 20 years, I know people remember Stephen Colbert. He in character one time spoke, and this was it was a House Judiciary Subcommittee meeting, not the Senate, which we're talking about in the movie right now. But how can we even see all of these things? They're brought to us by the fine and good people at C-SPAN, the Cable Satellite Public Affairs Network, which is an American cable and satellite television network created in 1979 by the cable television industry as a nonprofit public service. It televises many proceedings of the United States federal government, as well as other public affairs programming. And yes, you guys didn't hear it. I'll edit it out. That was some patriotic music playing behind me there while I said it. Anyway, it's awesome because that's what, I mean, when you look at this now, this scene playing out with the theatrics of conversation between warring factions, right? This plays out in our government all the time. And we get to see it live thanks to C-SPAN.
Thank you, C-SPAN. A generous product promotion has been provided for no C-SPAN. We love C-SPAN, but we just do it for the love. Because here we are, minute 13 of Iron Man 2 from 2010, directed by Mr. Jon Favreau. Joining the panel for once again is Mr. Ryan Dalton.
Yay. Hello. I remember when I first discovered C-SPAN as a kid, and I thought either this show is really boring or this news item is not cutting away. And then and then it dawned on me, oh, this is what's going on right now, and they're just showing it to showing us all of it.
This is real. This is real life.
So that was an education right away. So good job, C-SPAN.
Yeah. We are still here in the trial of Tony Stark. He's been subpoenaed and brought before the Senate Armed Services Committee. And so we pick up in the middle of a sentence. So what he had said was, to turn over the suit would be to turn over myself, which is tantamount to indentured servitude or prostitution, depending on what state you're in. Oh, Tony. I'm glad he didn't say the S word. Because that could have gone very, very badly.
Well, and the senator falls then right into his trap.
Yes.
when he gives him an opening to imply that senators know all about prostitution.
Yeah. Come on. And the audience, responds to, like you say, the audience is really on Tony's side through this whole thing.
Well, except Pepper.
Except for one.
Pepper. Yeah. So he turns to look exactly at everybody else, and they're all laughing and stuff too, and Pepper is not. And he even, I think, it mouths no, and she shakes her head.
But do you get from this? I think this moment is the first real tangible sign you're seeing legitimate flirting between Tony and Pepper. Because I think this is him looking. I've done this to my wife several times. Where you're in public or so, and you're making a joke, and I'm not making the joke for everyone in the room to laugh at. I am only making that joke for my wife to laugh at or to be infuriated with me because both show my affection for my wife. So I think there's a little bit of that here where he's just like, really? Because this is all for you.
We talked about that. We talked about this a little bit in Incredible Hulk as well, because that is definitely the look. And as married men, we know the look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't comment. I'm single.
Well, trust me, that's what
you'll know.
That's it.
You'll know. Your significant other gives you the look.
Exactly.
So, but then everything changes because the senator asked to call in an expert to talk about this, and this is where the whole movie changes because, ladies and gentlemen, the greatest character in this entire film, Justin Hammer.
Woohoo! I totally agree with that. Yes.
Justin Hammer is one of the greatest characters in all of the MCU, and certainly the greatest character in this particular movie. He is tragically underused from here on out of the MCU, but yeah, he is my favorite in this.
I really
wish
on screen we saw him. Yeah, I wish we saw him pop up more often because he's so good in this.
He could have been a recurring foil for all the stuff, but yeah. But that's fine because it's Sam Rockwell, and Sam Rockwell's doing fine. So let's talk a little bit about Sam Rockwell. He grew up in San Francisco. He went to school with Aisha Tyler and Margaret Cho. His first big movie was actually the original live-action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah, he plays the head of he plays like the head of the punk kids, like that the Foot are recruiting or whatever. I actually was going to pull an audio thing of it, but the problem is that scene has a song playing behind it, so I thought we might get tagged by the copyright cops if we tried to play it. But if you remember for the movie, and I'm not surprised if you don't, there's a scene where like kids are being recruited and like he's sort of taken around and they're like walking the stairs and like, you can do anything you want here. Like you can do, and they're like, can you smoke? And he like pulls out 2 cartons of cigarette. And he goes, regular or menthol. Like that was Sam Rockwell. And so he continued working all through there. His first big break though was in 1999 with The Green Mile. But it's basically a novella or the series of chapters published in sequence by Stephen King. And then of course we know him from Galaxy Quest as Guy. He was the surprise villain in the original Charlie's Angels movie. And he also played Zaphoid Beeblebrox in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy movie that Disney put out. He's here in this movie because of Maid, because he played a very small part in Jon Favreau's Maid. And when they were putting together the list of people he wanted to be, his name was on the list. And so they're like, we need to find something for Sam Rockwell to do. And so that happened. So that leads us to an interesting conversation because when this movie was originally put together, Justin Hammer, the character, wasn't in it. Originally, the whole villain scheme was going to be totally different. It was going to be Boris. Rob, remember Boris?
Yes.
Boris was going to be in this movie. Playing the part that Whiplash plays was going to be Boris. And then this character was going to be a Russian weapons dealer, basically like same kind of thing, but he would have been a Russian guy coming in to talk to the senators. Glasnost.
Do you think he would have also
had the bird? Would he
had the bird?
I don't think he would have had the bird. But then they were putting together, and so like what Jon Favreau likes to do is put a list of people that he really wants to have in or to do something with together, and they really glommed onto the idea of having Sam Rockwell in the movie as a good foil for Robert Downey Jr. Like to have the two of them to play off each other and stuff would be really good. And so they're like, oh yeah, but he can't do an accent like like all the talent Sam Rockwell has, but doing a really good Russian accent like this one, well, no, he couldn't have it. So they rewrote the role, and then so so the whole thing changed. So like, okay, so then it separated so that like he was not in cahoots with the Russian guy, essentially what became Ivan, and he was his own character, and then they came together later in the movie, and so then they're like, okay, so he needs to be somebody else, so they took Justin Hammer. So Justin Hammer from the comics is actually an older British man. He was originally in Iron Man number 120 from March 1979, created by Bob Layton, David Michelin, and John Romita Jr. Woo, shout out to JR. And so he in the comics he was around for a long time. He was the guy that created a bunch of Iron Man's armored foes. So he was the one who would create like technology and costumes for them and then send them out to defeat Iron Man or to rob banks or whatever it was. So he was behind people like the Beetle, constrictor, discus, leapfrog, man killer, porcupine, stiletto, water wizard. Like he was like the guy doing that. And then so when they did, they sort of reimagined him to be a contemporary of Tony Stark, because originally he was much more of a contemporary of Howard Stark because he was not that much older. So they de-aged the character and created his own thing. And I think did a really freaking good job of it. I think it's a really good idea. I think, and we'll talk about this more over the course of the thing, I think they missed an opportunity here, though, to have him be Justin Hammer Jr., because this whole thing is about fathers and sons and legacies. So what if he was the good son? Like, what if he did exactly what his father wanted? Or maybe even like you have a backstory of that he did a hostile takeover of his father's company and made, like, so he wanted to do more than what his dad was. Like, he's the one who always went through. And then you have a third legacy character. So you have Ivan and his daddy issues, and then you have Tony with his daddy issues, and then you'd have Justin with a lack of daddy issues, actually, because he had sort of triumphed over his father. So that could have made another layer they could have done here. I think that was a lost opportunity they did here.
Oh,
that could have been very interesting. Another layer of mirroring.
Yeah, as Ryan knows, as a writer, you can't help but go, you know what I would have done?
Oh, yeah. Even in movies you love, it's if it's a movie you don't like, it's satisfying to sit there and deconstruct and rebuild it as you would. If it's a movie you love, it's great just to play around in something you already love.
Yeah. And so it's a great entrance, though, because like he comes in and just as he's like crossing the room and you're like, oh, Sam Rockwell, that's interesting. And that's, he's Justin Hammer. You have Tony Stark already like cutting him. I have observed Justin Hammer entering, and I'm wondering if and when any actual expert will be in attendance. So it's like, ooh, and the crowd doesn't get the big reaction that the prostitution joke did.
No, that was
like,
funny.
Oh,
yeah, that's like almost like a hey, Tony Stark is human moment, because the crowd, I think, doesn't quite know how to react. That's like a couple of laughs. Some are like, ooh,
yeah, it's almost kind of catty. It's a little catty,
right?
Like, ooh,
and it's kind of interesting in that it's all juxtaposed. Like, we get the C-SPAN card here, the overlay, as if like we're watching the broadcast. And so we see Justin Hammer, CEO of Hammer Industries and Department of Defense primary systems contractor, which goes all the way back to the quick little thing we saw of the Hammer Pavilion over at the Stark Expo. So all of that now has been connected. But here's what I love already about this character. And I'm with you. I love this character. Mm-hmm. His inspiration, I read a thing where they said that Rockwell read the comic books and he got the whole flamboyance, he said, of the character, the ascot, like you said, British. He's got the ascot, he's got the smoking robe, all that. But he plays it as a guy who is super slick, super suave, witty, has all it, but then always has those awkward moments where he just pushes it past the line to where then it gets weird. And we'll talk about this all throughout this movie during when he comes up. But here, you're establishing it very quickly. And the one part I absolutely love in this, it's so nuanced. Tony gives him this insult, and here's Justin there, and he's got the water glass in his hand, and he just sort of pauses, acknowledges it, but is going out of his way to show Tony, nah, that's not going to throw me today.
Yeah, I have that in my notes too. He tips his glass to him. He goes like he says that, and he goes like, touche, like,
because guess what? I'm about to roll out a big can of Whoop Daddy issues on you. So so it's okay. I can take that.
Yeah, he's so interesting to me as a character. It just similar to what you guys said about, he always struck me as someone who desperately wanted to be cool. And you could picture him almost in like, if he did a flashback, as like the guy, like the band geek in middle school who gets tripped in the lunchroom and spills his tray. And he's like, when I grow up, I'm going to show all of you. And now he's this huge, massively rich tycoon weapons designer. And he's almost there, but he's not. He still can't get that thing that he always wanted, that cool factor. And he tries so hard and he overcooks it, and it makes it weird. So I love it. He's so much fun to watch.
Yeah, and you can see just the Tony Stark envy. Like, he just wants to be him so bad, or wants to beat him, one or the other.
Both.
And the thing interesting that we're going to see play out over the course of this thing is that sort of now there's a there's a perception that Justin Hammer is kind of a joke, that he's silly or he's pathetic or all this kind of stuff. But like here in these couple minutes here and in minute 14, he is like presents a legitimate threat, because like everything he's saying, you're like, oh yeah, that's he's right. Like that's like, just like with some of the best villains, when he like lays out stuff, you go, oh yeah, he's not wrong. He's not wrong about anything he says. You kind of go, huh, okay. So he obviously he's been insulted by Tony, and he takes it and then says, absolutely, I'm no expert. I defer to you, Anthony. You're the Wonder Boy. And it's like, Anthony, I just love it. He calls him Anthony because it automatically gives you a little bit of like, there's history between these two.
Sure.
You know, he didn't call him Tony, he calls him Anthony. I also thought it was interesting that he refers to him as Wonder Boy.
Wonder Boy. What is the secret of your power?
What is the secret of your power, Tony?
Oh my!
It's lasers.
Lasers, right? Lasers. But then ironically, the next thing he says is Howard Stark. You really was an expert. Your father, Howard Stark, really a father to us all, which was like, oh, that's interesting.
Well, do you
and to the military-industrial age? And it was like, yeah, that's true.
Okay, all of that. There is so much in that. When he calls him Anthony, who else do you think in Tony Stark's life called him Anthony?
I don't know. All I can think of is we don't really know what the history is, that they like knew each other when they were young. Like this is when I was wanting to write fan fiction. I really wanted to do like young Tony Stark at prep school and young Justin Hammer's there too.
Oh, okay.
They came up together, privileged as both the sons of people who made their money working for the government and weapons and stuff too. And like you're saying, like Justin Hammer's the kid, like, can I come too? Can I come too? Like, has all the same advantages, but just doesn't have that innate thing that Tony Stark does, that cool factor. And he was Anthony then, so he refers to him that way because that's how they grew up together. That's my headcanon.
No, see, and that's a good way to look at it. I look at it as that he knows a little bit about him and his father's issues.
Yes.
And that the idea is that
absolutely.
Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna hit you over the head 3 times in 3 seconds. I'm gonna call you Anthony. When I reference your father, I am gonna say your dad. And the way he delivers that line, it's dad, that term of endearment. It's and then to put it on. Oh yeah, because I know he wasn't really a dad to you. He was a father to us all. That's basically what he's saying.
Yeah.
And Tony's reaction is, his reaction is, you son of a.
Yeah. But you can see he lands every one of those blows. So like for the first time, Tony's like, okay,
it's on.
That's interesting because I think we all had slightly different reads on it. I think they're all viable. They could all be part of the thing. I read part of that and I do think the thing about like bringing up his dad was definitely like, I think it was partially like knowing it's going to get under Tony's armor, so to speak, to bring that up. Yeah. I wondered if the Anthony thing was almost a way. I've seen people before try to either imply that there is sort of a friendship or an intimacy or establish a friendship or an intimacy by calling someone a name that nobody else calls them.
Right.
In that maybe he's, because my read on Hammer was always that he would want one of 3 things: to defeat Tony, to be his best friend, or to talented Mr. Ripley him and become Tony. I think one of any 3 of them would make him happy. And that's where I almost thought like the line when he said, your dad was like a father to us all. That's almost like a thing of like, hey, I could be your best friend or brother, or even you if you were out of the picture or things. And I think his dysfunction just has so many layers that it's fun that we all got slightly different nuances and reads on it.
Yeah. So obviously I'm Kyle, which is it is. Ryan is just Ryan. Rob, are you Rob or are you Robert?
Oh no, I'm Robert, and I am a.
You are Robert,
and I'm a junior.
Oh, okay. So that's the thing. So then you have this experience of people referring to you by your given name versus your preferred name. So
and let me tell you,
give us some insight as people who have 4-letter names that everybody just says the same way.
There's only 2 people in my life, for a long time that refer to me as Robert, and those are only under circumstances situations. And those are my mother and my spouse.
When you've done something terrible.
Or said something terrible, or not said anything at all, or haven't done something that I was. I mean, when I hear Robert, I know I'm in trouble. But Ryan, I think that's a great point, though, is that he's doing the reverse. Like he's using his proper name in this situation because he's trying to have a relationship. He's trying to, or even just give the appearance of a relationship for the purposes of the audience there. All of this is good. I mean, here's what's great is, this is an amazing scene and incredibly well written and well acted, because look at how much you can get out of 15 seconds.
Yep.
That's awesome.
It's pretty awesome.
It's very well edited too.
I love it.
Yes.
So he continues talking about Howard Stark. He says, let's just be clear. He was no flower child. He was a lion. And I love that flower child thing of just like the weapons manufacturer who doesn't make weapons. Like that's another shot across the bow. Yeah. And then they cut to Senator Stearns, harsh gaze, and that's where our minute comes to an end.
Okay. So you have Stearns kind of going, well, it's the harsh gaze of,
that's right.
To go,
I brought my guy in.
So here's a coincidence. That phrase, the pairing of the flower child and the lion, it's been used before.
Really?
Believe it or not. We're gonna do another political deep dive.
Okay.
There is a Washington Post story from 1996 where a person, the author was Thomas Patricelli, was replying to David Broder's op-ed column about passing the torch back again. And this was during the 1996 presidential election, where Bill Clinton was basically given the flower child persona, and Bob Dole was an aging lion. And that term was actually used in that race, which I was blown away. I was like, is that a coincidence? Because that's such an odd, right? I wonder if there was any influence in using that terminology in here. Because it did have that whole thing. I mean, if you remember the race in 96 and you're paying attention, that was a big thing between, this was truly the passing of a generation. Little did we know what was going to happen later. But, we had this definite, Bill Clinton representing the baby boomers, Bob Dole representing the World War II generation, and how that was going. And they were wondering, well, what is this going to be? We've seen what this has been like with Bill Clinton. And it was literally that terminology, flower child or lion.
I would not be surprised. I would put that at Justin Theroux. Like I would think that was probably something he did in doing his research. Something came across, and
we have a question for him. Maybe.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll call him. Hold on. No.
We'll say that. Yeah, let's get him on the line.
Hey Siri, call Justin Theroux.
Very nice.
Justin Theroux has blocked you.
Still
again.
Just because of the fanfic I wrote about Charles Angels 3. I mean, I sent him art. But anyway, so we'll find out how Tony Stark recovers from this political body blow in minute 14.
I hope he responds with a combo breaker.
Combo
breaker.
In the meantime, if you want to get in your own best favorite political takedowns, you can do so over on Discord. We have our very own Discord server, nextreel.com/Discord. You can join for free, which is the best price to pay for things. We have dedicated movie channels to all of our different shows, including this very show, and then all the others where you can get in on all the different conversations going on all the different things. So whatever you want to talk about, we are there. We are available. You can join us. Thank you once again, Ryan Dalton, for sitting in with us.
Thank you. Had a blast.
I'm glad. And then stick around because there's still more Justin Hammer action coming at you. So be back here for minute 14. Enough said.
Bye.